Hello, this is Coach Precious, and welcome to another edition of Time is Precious. And today I'm going to touch on the importance and the realization that time is a mirror. Okay, so time is a mirror, and what does your calendar say about what you value? So let's think about that for a moment. And how we use our time, how we schedule it, is a reflection of our priorities. And it reflects what's important to us because what we put on our calendar, we're doing that so we'll remember, so we won't forget, and that we'll actually accomplish what's been put on the calendar. Am I right? That's how I use mine. So if you look back over the what you have scheduled on your calendar, what does it say about your priorities? What's there? What's there repeatedly? How much time is allotted for it? And let that just sit with that for a moment and let that reflect back to you what your priorities, what you have chosen them to be, what they are. Because we can say we feel one way or the other about different activities and how we value them or how we value other opportunities. But what's written down says what we think is a priority because we're setting it in stone, so to speak, when we put it in our calendars, because that's going to stick. That's something we don't want to forget. So, when we recognize and appreciate the value of time, let's be honest with ourselves by looking at our calendars and seeing what we actually do value, what we actually do prioritize in our lives as daily activities, however often we do them, but what we value because it's going to be reflected back. So look at your calendar and let that be a reflection to you. Reflect back what you have deemed important and necessary to do. All right. Next point I want to touch on is I want to challenge you all, challenge the women here to audit your time and see if your schedules align with healing, joy, and goals. So we know what we put on our calendars are things that we want to get done, we want to accomplish, and they have been prioritized. That's why they're on the calendar. And as we look back at those again, okay, we want to see do they align with our healing, our joy, and our goals. What's something that you have on there on your calendar? Just look back at it for this week, for today. Is there anything on there that would align with healing? Is there any activity, or let's say a block of time where you don't have to engage in a specific activity that can reflect healing time for you? Is there anything you do for fun that is happy and wholesome and healthy for you? Anything that's joyous? How do you plan or schedule, or do you plan and schedule your fun? You have time for joy. And joy is deeper than I'll say fun or happiness because those can be fleeting. Joy goes deeper. So, what do you schedule, or do you schedule activities or free time to be intentional about your joy making? Are you spending time in any activities or any free time to just revel in, bask in, look for opportunities to experience joy in your life? I say it's something worth doing. And in addition to reflecting, letting those activities that you've scheduled reflect back to you any healing, joy, what about goals? There are things you want to accomplish. There are things that you have spoken out loud. They've been put out there in the ether. And then there are things that you've kept. And many people may not know about it. And maybe someone does. Maybe you've written down some of your goals. What have you done? What does your calendar show that reflects you pursuing these goals? Because it's one thing to say, but it's another thing to do. So if we are scheduling what's important to us, if we're scheduling what's necessary for us, how do our activities fit in with those categories of healing, joy, and goals? And if it's not, the good news is we can do something about it. Bringing it to your attention, and you have the realization that, this is something that I need to implement. This is something I would like to implement. This is something I will implement. The choice is yours. And then the third point that I want to touch bases with you on, as far as your time being a mirror and using your calendar to see what it says about what you value. Use a kickoff to boundary setting. Okay. As you approach these questions, as you look back and let your what's on your schedule be reflected back to you, let's let this be a kickoff to going deeper, being more intentional, specific with our boundary setting. And so there are programs that I have that can fit in with that, such as Empower Your Life and then Radical Self Preservation. Both of those center these qualities that we've talked about and these priorities that we're setting to value time, to value our time. Time is something we don't get back. It's something that we can be intentional, and we are to be intentional about how we use. It's such a precious commodity, such a precious gift. And when we realize that and we act in accordance with it, we're going to use it in specific ways. So, making sure that you are equipping yourself to live an empowered life is crucial, and being intentional about choosing your emotional well-being, your own health, wholeness, and happiness is also important. So, however you go about it, I encourage you to be intentional about how you empower yourself intentionally to live your best life. And then also, I encourage you to also be very intentional about choosing yourself and choosing yourself in a way that is not about being, let me choose my words here. It's not about boastfulness. It's not about selfishness. It's wisdom. It's self preservation. And before we can give and be and do for others, we've got to meet our needs first. We've got to care for ourselves, meet us where we actually are. So, wherever we are, meet ourselves there, give ourselves the self care that we desire and need the most, and then the world awaits. But we have to take care of ourselves first. So, recognizing the importance and the preciousness of time, I encourage you to use your calendar as a mirror to reflect back to you what your true priorities are. It's a great challenge, and it's one that can be very easily done. All you do is go back to your calendar, see what you've penciled in, written down. What have you deemed important to make sure that you followed up with and didn't miss out on? Look at that. Check and see if you have penciled in, penned in any time for healing, joy, and meeting your own goals. I tell you, when you do, it's so rewarding. When you do, it's such a system you're setting in place for your success. And it's the way to actually go after what you want in life, to actually be who you want to be. We've got to be intentional with it and use this precious commodity of time to help us do just that. Okay? I look forward to seeing you again the next time. It's been a minute, but I'm glad that you are here today. And you take care. And as we remember, time is precious. Let's use it wisely.